How's it going, guys? Today I'm going to talk about my RC51, and it finally took me this long. I don't know how long I've had the bike for, 6 months, 8 months, I don't know. I've had it for a little bit now, and it took me this long to figure out 5 things that I do not like about this bike. I was going to originally just do 4 things and be like, I couldn't do a 5th one, but I did think of a 5th one, so I'm going to, actually possibly a 6th thing that I don't like about this bike, and I'm going to share that with you guys today. Now, obviously, if it took me this long to think of 5 or 6 things I don't like about this bike, then chances are I think it's a fantastic motorcycle, and chances are that I love it, right? I mean, yeah, that goes without saying. I do love this bike. Without further ado, let's get into it. These are 5 things that I hate about my RC51, and this is a 2006 Honda RC51, the SP2 version. So the first thing I do not like about my RC51 is the oil changes. So in order to fill up your oil, you have to take this fairing off, and the oil fill neck is right here. But in order to drain the oil, the drain plug is on this side. So if you want to do an oil change, you have to take off both side fairings, just because Honda, for whatever reason, couldn't do the filler right here, or put the drain on this side of the engine. I don't know why they did that. I don't know why they put the fill on this side, the drain on that side, because now you got to remove like 2 big fairings just to get to the oil. And an oil change is something that people, especially if you're racing this bike, you do that very often. But anyway, I do it like once a year, so it's not a big deal for me, but that is something I hate about this bike. The second thing I hate about this bike, and no, I'm not going to say no fuel gauge, okay? I'm not going to say that, because I understand this is a race bike. But at the same time, Honda, for the love of God, would it have killed you guys to allow us to display, if you can see right here, I'm not sure, right here we have the tripometer, so that's how you calculate your gas, but you can't do that and the engine temperature at the same time, which is super annoying because this thing doesn't have a fuel gauge, obviously, like I just said, which again is not a big deal. I'm okay with that, but I need to be able to see the tripometer. Now, of course, at least it gives you that, right? And it is a race bike. I do understand Honda doesn't really care about that stuff. But the big issue with it, and this will lead us on to a next point, is that I can't manage what the temperature of the engine is and the tripometer. Now, the engine temperature, the problem with that, and this is reason number 3, is that this bike runs hot. It runs extremely hot. And I think my average, like, when I'm riding with my buddies, I'll be at, like, 220 degrees, and they will be at, like, 180. I get it, it's an older bike, but, like, my friend's bike, he has a 1000, and it's 1 year newer than this thing. 1 year! He has no idea if the coolant has ever been changed on that. It has more mileage anyway. I mean, and this thing, it gets so hot. So I don't think it's a coolant issue. I don't think it's an issue with the bike at all. I just think that it's like a stupid thing with this bike. And I'm not sure why it runs hot. Probably, I mean, V-twins do run hotter than inline 4s. That's the nature of the beast. One of the heads is being blocked from the other one, so they really depend on liquid cooling. And I know with other people, they've experienced this too. I do understand that I have an aftermarket exhaust system on this bike, so that's not totally fair, but people with stock systems say that it does get hot. And although my seat doesn't really get that hot, you know what gets hot is my ankle that sits right here on the brakes, on the shifting side. Holy crap, right here, this part of the pipe is so hot. Holy hell, does that get hot. Your left ankle gets super hot. And for our next thing, now I get it, it is a race bike, and I get it, I'm not going to complain about the fuel gauge, but I do want to mention the fuel capacity. They don't call this thing the Thunder Pig for no reason. This thing uses gas like crazy. I'm not sure what I'm averaging, but I'll put the fuel tank size on screen because I don't know it by heart. But this thing goes through fuel like crazy, and I think I get like 110 miles before the light comes on, and then after the light I have like maybe a gallon left. So I think my range is about 130 miles, maybe 135, 140 possibly if I'm riding like an old lady. But it's a race bike, and that really is like a nitpicking thing, and that's why I'm going to add a 6th one, because I really don't think that's good enough. Because, I mean, a little fuel range, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. You just have to stop and get gas a lot. I mean, it's not a big deal. But anyway, for our 5th thing that I do not like about the RC51, and I figured this out right away. The rear brake sucks on it. I'm not sure if that's just mine or not, but that's not the reason why I hate it. Okay, because you can upgrade brakes, I don't mind that. You can see the level right here, and that's nice. I'm kind of surprised Honda gave me that, but the problem with that is the fact that in order to add brake fluid, you have to literally remove this whole entire tail section fairing. So that encompasses removing the seat, removing everything. Here you can see it right there. You cannot spin this off. I've tried it. It's hard. Maybe if you were like really, really tiny, maybe you can fit your hand in there and spin it off. I can't. I had to remove the whole tail fairing off just to add brake fluid. I mean, holy hell. Now, you can relocate those. It's not a big deal. I mean, there's all kinds of kits you can use, but that is something that's super freaking annoying. And that's my 5 things. Now, I did think of one major problem with this bike and one minor problem with this bike. Now, the major issue. And the major issue with this bike, and I guess I can go ahead and pop the trunk just to show you guys. Although it might be hard to see in there. Now, this is a problem with all of the old Hondas. As you can see right there, oh, that's hot. This is my rectifier. Those things are notorious for going bad. And the reason why is there's no freaking airflow back here. There's hardly any. I mean, I have like a little hole down there that gives it some airflow, but man, is it not much. And that's a problem for this bike. I mean, they go through rectifiers, and this is with all Hondas from this era, the 929, 954, VFRs, things like that. They all have issues with their rectifiers. So, I mean, it's not a huge deal. You can replace that with a MOSFET unit, and it will be totally fine. And, of course, I've had no issues with it yet, but that is a point of failure on these bikes. And for my other minor little thing is this thing you see right here. This is light, it's nice, but these are notorious for flying off and you lose them. And there's a couple methods to fix it. This bolt right here will back out over time from vibrations, so people suggest removing it and putting Loctite on it. That will prevent this from opening up, and you can lose these. These will literally fly off. I just wish that with the 929 and 954, these things pop up like this. It's so cool. Why didn't they use that with this? I mean, I get it, it's a race bike. They're trying to save weight any which way they can, but damn, that would have been nice if they just did that. And also, this doesn't line up perfectly. These are both OEMs, so I'm not sure. Like, you can see there's a lip right there. I don't know. I've changed it up. I've messed with it for like an hour and I could not get it right. But yeah, anyway guys, that is it for this video. That is my top 5 things I do not like about my RC51, plus 1.5 bonus ones, I guess. Obviously, like I said in the beginning, I love this bike. It took me so long to come up with those things. None of those are deal breakers for me. The thing that really drives me nuts the most, actually, is the checking on the fuel, the tripometer, and the temperature gauge. Those, I don't know why that bothers me so much, but things like that drive me nuts. But yeah, it's a great bike. Love this bike. Can't say enough great things about it. Excellent motorcycle. And thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye. I guess another complaint I could have for this bike is the fact that it has no gear indicator. That is another thing I really don't like about this bike. Even as a race bike, like, I feel like gear indicator, it's almost as important as a tachometer. I mean, I think it is, at least. You know what, guys, I'm going to extend this video a couple minutes just so you can hear the bike and come for a ride. it's kind of boring just listening to, or just seeing it in a parking lot talking about it. But man, is this bike awesome. I love this thing so much. It's such a good motorcycle. It's everything that I hoped it could be. I'll admit it's a little bit slower than I thought it would be, but man, not by much. I mean, it's still a fast bike, and part of that could be I'm not running a good tune on this bike. So I think once I put a good tune on it, it'll really come alive. I've been meaning to dyno tune it for a while now. I've just been kind of lazy.